Hey there, and thanks for joining us on GamePoints, a weekly get-together. We talk about the past week in gaming news. I am, as always, your host, Stephen Brown. Join me today is...
David Smith, the one that can actually talk.
Today we're going to be talking about Mass Effect getting put on hold for a while. We're going to talk about ZeniMax versus Samsung and how one's suing the other over VR tech. Some Assassin's Creed rumors. But before we get into all of that, I want to talk about this rumored Zelda mobile game. By the way, Beesweave, appreciate you seeing there. Disco Keen, welcome to the chat. Feel free to join us, by the way, if you are in chat. This is an interactive podcast when we can. David, what do you think about this Zelda mobile game rumors? We know nothing about it other than that it's rumored to exist or be coming up.
So the thing is with this is I have no idea how the hell it would play, really, like what you would be accomplishing in a mobile Zelda game. There's a million different things I can think of. But if we just look at the other few things that Nintendo's come out with, the what the hell, like the Miiverse nonsense, Super Mario Run, and Fire Emblem, it would be aggressively pay-based. And I can't think of any Zelda-based game that I would want to spend a shit ton of money on.
You mentioned Super Mario Run, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, I don't know how this is going to shake out. I'm not even sure if this is going to be part of DNA
I'm really cool
stuff.
with the idea of Nintendo putting more things on mobile, and honestly, that's where Pokemon needs to go. But I get that they're never going to do it. It's just they have this kind of half start, half stop mentality when it comes to mobile. It seems like they're interested in bringing franchises to mobile, but they don't really want to put their eggs in that basket because the games that they've released are very obviously cut down versions of their major franchises because they still want you to buy Nintendo hardware. So it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know it makes some money and everything like that, but I just can't bring myself to really be all that excited for mobile games, even if Nintendo's doing it. And keep in mind, these are technically rumors right now, but it's I'd say it's a pretty sure thing that Zelda will come to a mobile sometime soon. We'll see how it shakes out, possibly in Nintendo's E3 Direct. It's not really an E3 conference, but it is something they like to do right before that happens. I think it usually happens on a Tuesday to kind of catch in with all the E3 momentum going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, just want to touch on that real quick, let you all know that we did hear about it, and we know nothing really much about it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get on with the show. This is GamePoints episode 89. You can join us every Monday here at Twitch TV/GamePoints. Please feel free, if you're watching us here live on Twitch, to interact with the chat. For example, I see you being there, Bees Weaves, and I'm very upset you did pre-order Battlefront 2. Shame on you. You shouldn't be pre-ordering anything.
Pre-order all the time, constantly.
Yeah, and feel free to follow and all that good stuff. If you happen to be watching us on YouTube, like, subscribe, dislike, comment, whatever you want to do on there. Let's go ahead and move into the first story of tonight there, David, and that is, if I can get this to work, there we go. Mass Effect being put on hold because, well, Andromeda was lackluster, to say the least.
Shitstorm.
Now, this information does come via Kotaku. Sources, Jason Schreier's sources specifically, says that BioWare Montreal is going to be scaled down, Mass Effect put on ice for now. BioWare has put Mass Effect on hiatus and turned Andromeda's developer BioWare Montreal into a support studio, according to 4 sources close to the company. BioWare is letting Mass Effect sit for a while rather than putting staff on Andromeda's follow-up right away, those sources said. A number of BioWare Montreal employees were transferred to Studio EA Motive, also based in Montreal, to work on Star Wars Battlefront 2. Those remaining at BioWare Montreal will help support BioWare's other games, including the new intellectual property, codenamed Dylan, which we expect the company to announce at E3. Sources say BioWare Montreal is significantly smaller than it was just a few months ago. Those who didn't want to go to Motive will help out BioWare's other projects rather than incubating and developing on their own. Fucked up. How the mighty have fallen. BioWare used to be the pinnacle of story-based RPGs, and to see what has happened with Mass Effect, and the bitch of it is, Mass Effect really isn't a terrible game.
Well, see, you can't necessarily blame it all on Mass Effect, because if you think the Dragon Age game that came out before Andromeda had issues as well.
See, I loved Inquisition, though. I thought that was a good step in the right direction. BioWare, though, was just riddled with shit, and when you're, like I said, it's not a terrible game, it's just a mediocre game, but that franchise is so revealed by so many people, mediocre does not cut it.
Yeah, for sure. People love Mass Effect, even though they don't like the ending of 3, and they wanted Andromeda to be like the hot shit. And it looked pretty cool until it came out, and just got slammed with technical issues. People just unsatisfied with really where it was going and what it wanted to do, and it just didn't feel like a continuation of the legend, as it were.
Well, this is what happens when you combine busted tech, as shown by all the facial animations, the fact that everyone had dead eyes, glitches all over the place, along with massive development issues. There were major shakeups in the development of the game, changes of scope. I think one of the lead writers actually bounced out halfway through, so the entire vision of the game changed. Piss poor writing with some really ham-fisted social justice checkboxing. Now, what I mean by that is, I'm not like that one of those people goes, oh, there's a girl main character, I'm not going to play that, or fuck that, they have a gay or a minority in there. I don't care if you have that or not. What I care about is that when you put them in there so ham-fistedly that of an NPC's 3 lines of dialogue, 2 of them are to tell me that they're transgendered. No one goes up to a stranger and says, hi, I'm trans, by the way. I used to be known as this, I'm now known as this. What kind of asinine writer thought that was a good idea to put in there? Fucking work it into a story. Make some effort to have inclusion rather than just checking the box. And I think
that would make way more sense if there was character backstory missions that you could go into to learn more about the party, as opposed to people just like arbitrarily saying random bullshit.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I thought it was handled well in Dragon Age Inquisition, for example. In Inquisition, there was also a transgender character, and I like the way that brought up because if I recall correctly, Krem, they themselves didn't bring it up. You're talking with Krem's boss, Iron Bull, and Iron Bull is like, oh yeah, they're transgender. And it felt far more natural to have this discussion with it, and you, as a player, had to be the one that inquired about it, rather than just the character walking up to you and go, oh, by the way, I'm such and such. It's like, okay, cool. I have no idea who the fuck you are. Would a stranger ever do this on the street? No. Come on, BioWare. You used to be known for your writing in games. This is fucking horrible. Additionally...
They should work on keeping the good writers.
Yeah, you'd think, right? Additionally, with how poorly received Mass Effect 3 ending was, this needed to knock it out of the park, and it did the exact opposite. It is folly to say that this franchise is dead. What they're going to do on it is it's just going to go away for 2 or 3 years and come back. They might just even toss the entire Andromeda storyline aside. We'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, it is fucking tragic to see this combination of bullshit combined into what turned out to be Mass Effect Andromeda.
Well, that was upbeat. I'm very excited about that.
Well, I'm very passionate about that franchise. That franchise legitimately means a lot to me.
Well, we can talk about other stuff the EA is doing.
Yeah, let's talk about their...
like making money.
Yeah, let's talk about their... I know this is boring, but it's that time of year. EA's fourth quarter and fiscal year ending 17.
It's not boring if you do it right.
It is, and I'm just going to go through this real quick. If you want to take a look at it, I'll bring it up here if I can. We'll see if it pops up. I was having issues with it earlier. All right, it's not going to pop up, so I'm not going to worry about it. Long
EA
story
short, a lot of shit.
Yeah, EA has sold a lot of shit. I'm not going to go over their entire earnings call because it will be here forever, but I am going to hit on a couple highlights. One, their digital net sales are of $3 billion for the fiscal year of last year. This represents 61% of total net sales, up 20% year over year. Essentially, they're selling more and more and more digital copies of games every year. This is where it's going, guys.
You know what this means? You know what the big takeaway is from this for me?
What was that?
People are using Origin on purpose.
Not only is this counting Origin, though, but this is also counting digital sales on the PSN and the Xbox One. And when they do put stuff on Steam occasionally, this is all lumped into that sales number. But Origin is a big part of that. People are buying stuff off Origin.
Origin is getting bigger, although everyone hates it and fights it. But it is getting a little better, piece by piece, slowly.
This is...
Make a party and stay in that party for a little bit of time.
Yeah, possibly. This is the trend for every company and publisher out there. You will see the all-digital future within the next 10 years, if not sooner. I know that there were people theorizing that the next set of consoles won't even have a drive in there. I don't think we'll ever hit that point, but we are creeping closer and closer to it. You will start to see physical copies of games going by the wayside, and you're already kind of seeing that with some smaller releases. I don't think... I was going somewhere with that, and I lost my train of thought. But long story short, digital's coming. Get used to it. I know there'll always be collector's editions and stuff out there, but when was the last time you bought a physical copy of a game there, David?
I recently ordered King of Fighters 14 for my PS4, and it arrived about 2 weeks ago. So suck it.
Okay,
bitch.
fair enough. Fair enough. How often, what percentage of games do you buy are physical these days?
I mean, I own a PC.
Yeah, same here. It's all digital.
So everything on my PC, I've never bought a physical game for my PC. But since I got a PS4, I've bought, I think, 5 physical games.
Mm-hmm. Disco Teen Chat saying that they're already there. Half the games they sell are just the cards. They're the cards that have the scratcher voucher number on there. So, yeah, it's coming. Bees Weaves, they could lower the cost of games. I think that's going to happen. I've kind of gone off on this rant before. What's keeping games at $60 even for their digital versions are the GameStops and Walmarts of the world. And the only reason why they're not just cutting out the GameStops and the Walmarts and all that is because they still need them to sell hardware. But the moment they get around that, or the moment they cut a deal with Amazon to just deliver hardware directly in your house, those stores are done. And then that's when you'll see the prices on games start to drop because they're all digital. You'll start seeing games being sold for $50 instead of $60 by, say, Sony. And then Microsoft will go, well, shit, we have to sell our stuff for $50 now. And that's when you're really going to see it drop down. What's keeping those prices
and then
static?
Nintendo will keep doing cartridges and weird SD card based things for as long as they're around. They will never get it.
Yeah. What's keeping prices static right now is the fact that GameStop won't let any of the big companies drop the price on their games down because it will be eating into their own profits. So it's both publishers and GameStops or brick and mortar stores in general hate each other, but they need each other right now. It's a fight that the publishers are eventually going to win, however, so just be prepared for that. Other takeaways from the EA results. Through the end of the fiscal year 17, Battlefield 1 had more than 19 million players joining the game. That is a 50% increase over Battlefield 4 in a comparable period. Battlefield 1 is going to be the future, guys. It has longer legs than Battlefield 4 did, so expect more historical games instead of modern warfares or future combat. Historical is the way they're going to be going from now on, at least for a while.
Well, see, EA is lucky in the fact that they can go both ways at the same time because they have Battlefield 1, which is awesome. Now they can make Battlefield 1944, finally, so I can play that shit. And then, on the other side, they'll have Battlefront, which will hit all my checkboxes for a futuristic game.
Yeah, your futuristic stuff will be taken over by Star Wars. Yeah, Bees Reeves called World War II. I mean, that's where people want it right now. They're done with modern or close to modern or even future combat. They want to go back to the past and recapture those glory days, as it were. Other tidbits to take away. EA was the #1 publisher on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One consoles in the Western world for fiscal 2017. Keep in mind, they did not say PC, because I believe that goes to Blizzard and Activision. Nor does it count Asia, where Tencent just fucking rules everything. So, when you hear EA say they're the #1 publisher, just keep those caveats in mind. Finally, one more thing to take away from all this is that EA is looking at the Nintendo Switch's success, their early success, and they might be putting more games on it. That's good for everyone.
That's a huge get.
Yes.
If Nintendo can lock down EA as a third-party publisher and they can actually get games at the same time the other consoles do, huge, big deal.
Yeah.
Big giant deal.
This is what killed the Wii U. The Wii U didn't sell, so third parties were reluctant to put games on it, which in turn means the Wii U sold less, which means third parties that were putting games on it pulled out, and it became this death spiral. And that's why no one was really hardcore to commit to the Switch other than Ubisoft. Since the Switch is selling extremely well for Nintendo right now, you're going to start seeing third parties looking at the hardware a little bit more than just a dead system at this point. They're going to start developing games. They might just dip their little toe in it to see how the temperature feels. You probably won't get the rush of ports down like you did for the Wii, which had almost every EA game, but ported like for tech 5-6 years ago. You're probably not going to get that, but you'll see them start developing some stuff for the Switch, which is good for the life of the Switch. It's going to cause more Switches to sell, which will in turn get more developers in. It's healthy. You want this kind of thing. And if you're like a Microsoft or PlayStation fanboy and you're saying, fuck the Switch, you don't want that either. You want a strong competitive Switch, because the more big boys out there fighting each other, the more innovation and the more reason the developers have to push against each other. And that's when you get bigger games and better games and more bang for your buck. So all of this is good.
Yeah, man. It's exciting. They're going to try and get me to get a Switch still.
Beastweaves.
Oh, there's amazing shit.
Beastweaves saying his brother always said that the Wii U didn't fail. Your brother is horribly wrong. There's no gentle way to put that. He is just outright incorrect. The Wii U was a failure. Nintendo knows it was a failure. That's why they discontinued it so quickly and just moved on to this.
That's why they didn't make a Wii U 2.
Yeah.
And they switched gears.
Yeah.
Speaking of pulling out, let's talk about Square Enix.
That's a good one. Square Enix and IO Interactive parted ways. This kind of sucks, actually. Let me go ahead and bring it up here. This is something that's also not loading up. I'm having issues with my web pages loading up, and that's unfortunate.
What's a web page? We don't need it. We can do it with our brain. I'll tell you guys what it looks like. It's a Twitter page, right? And Wario64 is a guy who basically tweeted that Square Enix is withdrawing from the business of IO Interactive, and he's got this big, long, boring-looking shit that Steven was going to read to you. But instead, we don't have to do that because Twitter won't load.
Yeah. Essentially, Square Enix put out a press release that says, quote, "To maximize player satisfaction as well as marketing potential going forward, we're focusing our resources and energies on key franchises and studios. As a result, Square Enix has regrettably decided to withdraw from the business of IO Interactive, a wholly owned subsidiary and a Danish corporation, as of March 31st, 2017. That sucks. IO Interactive, for you guys who don't know, are the ones who made Hitman, and have made Hitman. This most recent Hitman was fantastic, actually, despite it being episodic, and that is, in my opinion, what fucking killed it. They should have just released it as a whole complete game, because once you play it as one piece, it's amazing. I love the new Hitman.
I legitimately waited for all of it to come out.
Yeah,
I didn't want to buy it, because why would I want to play a little piece of the game?
Exactly. It looks like they did separate from IO Interactive back in March 31st. They just now announced it. I don't know what the exact details here are, though. Are they looking to sell these guys? It doesn't sound like they're closing the studio down. It looks like they just terminated a contract with them, but I thought they owned them. It's very confusing, and the entirety of the document is written in so much business Twitch
I think they were just the publisher for IO, so that means IO is currently needing a publisher, is what I would assume.
Yeah, I don't know, but the entirety of the press release is just filled with jargon that's unnecessary. All you guys need to know is that IO Interactive and Square Enix aren't together anymore, which paves the way, if they can talk to EA again, to create Freedom Fighters 2.
God damn it. Also, Disco in chat called out FF7 is going to be episodic, the Final Fantasy VII remake, which I am very aware of, and I think it's going to kill that game as well.
So Square Enix as a whole unit isn't
because that game is not coming out any fucking time soon, and when it does finally come out, it's going to be a chunk. It's going to be like a 4-hour chunk of a 70-hour game.
Square Enix is in a lot of trouble. They keep offing their Western franchises. Hitman's the most recent. Deus Ex, we've also put on indefinite hold for the most part. That's dead as they focus on Marvel games.
Deus Ex?
Deus Ex. Deus Ex. Deus Ex.
There you go.
Final Fantasy 15 kind of failed to set the world on fire. It had a big opening sales week, but there was no telling at all. In fact, sales in the UK dropped around 80% or so in the second week because people went, oh, this really isn't all that great. Additionally,
I know a lot of people that love that game.
Yeah. Additionally, their two biggest Japanese games coming out are Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy VII Remake, and they're still years away with no word on release. My opinion is that is 2019 minimum before you see those games. Tomb Raider, while a fun franchise, they have a new one coming out. I think Shadow of the Tomb Raider, not officially announced yet, but that franchise really isn't doing too well for them either, unfortunately. All stemming from the disastrous decision they made to make it a console exclusive when it first came out.
Yeah, those games are really good, though.
This does not bode well for Square Enix in general, and the Hitman example specifically doesn't bode well for Final Fantasy VII because, like Disco Key mentioned in chat, that shit's going to be episodic. That is not fucking good. And I hope they kind of take a look at it over the next 5 years it's going to take to develop. Let's be honest here. That's how long it's going to be, 2023 before it comes out.
I feel like the episodic thing started because people are copying the Telltale series, like that design philosophy. The big thing, the difference between Telltale and all these other games is that Telltale is also on mobile.
Yeah,
a lot of times you can play those games on a tablet or on a phone, and that style kind of works better. But if it's something that I'm going to play on my big ass TV, why am I going to wait?
Well, Telltale games also aren't your traditional game though either. That story format works
story based.
Yeah, that works very well in the episodic format because it's like you're just waiting for the next week for a TV show. In this case, with Telltale, a couple months or a month. But man, this is not Square Enix in fucking trouble. Let's to sum things up. It's not good.
But they're always in trouble.
Yeah, Disco in.
Who else makes RPGs? Because remember when Square was in trouble back in the day, and Enix was in trouble, and they merged, and now they're like the RPG crew. Who else is doing it? We could get Square Enix, BioWare, all rocking out together.
Just have them buy BioWare and go from there.
Yeah. We'll call them Squeenix Bio.
It's not good. I'm coming in very white today. My lighting's off. Anyways, Square Enix in trouble. That's not a good thing. Let's go ahead and talk about the next story here that kind of leaked last week, and that is
Ass Creed.
Technically unconfirmed, but it's pretty much fucking a guarantee that Assassin's Creed had another image leaked. You can bring it right here. A user on Reddit, whose name was removed by the time I looked up the story, posted this online here. Suggests that the new Assassin's Creed game will in fact be set in ancient Egypt as the rumors in a previous screenshot suggest. Other rumors also suggest it will be called Assassin's Creed Origins and it will be set in more than one time period. And I do mean beyond that normal modern day crap that all the Assassin's Creed put in there, but multiple time periods as the game goes on. The game is being made by the team that made Black Flag, which is the best Assassin's Creed to date so far. And I hear that the naval combat is being returned back into it.
Snap.
Yeah.
I just want to stab some pharaohs.
It's hard for me to be excited for Assassin's Creed anymore. I think it was a good idea that they took a year off. They didn't release one last year to kind of
Well, here's the thing. If they actually focus energies and work on making this game come out like bug-free as best they can with a good story and good combat, I mean, they can do these things. I believe in you, Ubisoft.
Yeah, you
Just
would
stop
think.
starting with your thumb way up in your asshole.
Either way, we'll probably get some more news on Assassin's Creed Origins, if that's indeed what it's called, over the next couple weeks. You also have Far Cry 5 rumors going around, the Mario and Rabbids thing, because Ubisoft can't keep a secret for shit. You'll probably hear something about one of those sometime next week, and likely we will be covering it when it breaks.
That doesn't sound like something we'd do.
Nah, we'll see how it works out. Anyways, enough of unconfirmed rumors and all that.
Let's do something old school. Let's do something we haven't done in a while. Let's talk about esports.
I haven't talked about that in a long time. Let's talk about absurd Overwatch buy-in fee.
That is, as weird as it sounds, a story that we actually got from ESPN.
Yeah.
Which is not a place where we really get a whole lot of stories. But the Overwatch League that Blizzard is putting out, they're actually having a lot of trouble with it because the asking price to get into it is way the fuck too high. So multiple sources close to existing franchisees and investment partners told ESPN that Blizzard has an asking fee of $20 million as a franchise fee for the league. So Following that, the teams aren't even guaranteed a revenue share until 2021, and only if Blizzard meets certain criteria that the sources did not disclose. Sources also say that if a team sells its spot to another party, the league would receive 25% of the proceeds. So, for comparison's sake, the League Championship Series for Riot Games League of Legends has like a 1.8 million buy-in. That was the most recent one that happened in December. And when asked for comment, Blizzard, while not denying the allegations, did suggest people are spreading misinformation in an attempt to give themselves advantages in negotiations. But I remember reading this article and thinking that's fucking absurd. And I kind of believe it. Because as soon as this hit, a shit ton of pro teams actually backed out of the Overwatch League almost immediately.
Yeah,
so if you go through and look at the teams that still are in, it's much smaller than it was a month ago.
And why wouldn't they fucking back out of it? League of Legends, I'm not an esports guy by any stretch of imagination, but League of Legends has the potential for the most profit. They have the biggest purses out there. Why would you spend $20 million to get into Overwatch, which doesn't have even remotely close to that, when you can spend a tenth of that and get into the League of Legends circuit?
Yeah. Well, also keep in mind that the prize pool for League of Legends World Finals last year was like, I don't even think it was $6 million.
Oh, so it's not. Maybe it's not as big as it was, because I think Dota, their invitational was like 10 million.
Well, Dota gets a lot because they can get a lot from Steam.
Yeah, I think they take like 20% of all the sales.
They can use sales from stuff from like Counter-Strike and shit like that to boost the Dota numbers. Because I think that one has like 18 million was their big prize pool, which kind of broke a bunch of records. But still, $18 million as their entire prize pool is still still less than the fucking buy-in, like the basic buy-in. You're not even guaranteed to get that much money.
Disco King in chat is saying that it's because of Korea and that Overwatch is the most watched esport right now, which in turn brings in the big companies like Samsung, which is a Korean-based manufacturer. I can't attest to the validity of that, but it sounds like that could be the case.
This also just completely kills the idea that if you're a smaller team trying to break into the pro leagues, good fucking luck. Because unless you have an insane money-backed sponsor, guess what? You can't be a pro for Overwatch.
Yeah, 20 million is no
Legends,
fucking
joke. There was a lot more likelihood that people could break in with the Challenger Leagues and everything, because if you remember with the Disco's gonna correct me, but like the invitationals, like the spring series and everything, where they're replacing teams with whoever's ranked the highest, you'd have people kind of bounce in and bounce out. But with this, that's not gonna happen, because unless your team is set in stone and you get a buy-in up front, you're not just gonna hop into this season halfway. There's way too much of a fucking asking price.
Right. Not only that, but if these other stipulations are also correct, like the no revenue sharing until 2021. If you sell the spot, the league takes 25%. This is all just stuff designed to drive people away. I don't know what Blizzard's doing here. Now, keep in mind, this is all technically rumor. Blizzard is not confirming nor denying it. These are all inside sources. We really don't know if this is the case or not, because no one's produced. This is the contract that you need to read. But I would not be surprised if it's the case.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, anything you want to add to the Overwatch story before I move on, David?
I hope it works out. I hope that this is kind of unfounded and the buy-in is much cheaper, and that the Overwatch League is highly competitive and super fun to watch.
Yeah. You know what this could be? Actually, before I
hope that there's a U.S. team that has at least a little bit of chance of getting into the quarterfinals before we just watch all the Koreans play. And that's all I got, really.
You know what this could be? This could be Blizzard not necessarily trying to be punitive against the teams themselves. This is Blizzard possibly setting themselves up to try to be an NFL or something like along those lines in America, because you are starting to see esports getting broadcast on ESPN, on TNT. And they might be trying to go, well, if we're on American television, we can charge prices fitting for the other guys that are on American television. This could be them trying to just think too far ahead in the future without everything else being there
brought
yet.
To you by Bud Light.
Yeah, exactly. They could be thinking, we have something here. Esports is getting looked at by bigger and bigger companies. Let's actually charge a premium price that's absurd and see if people bite. That could be what's going on here. That they know it's extremely overpriced, but they're like, nah, fuck it. Let's see if this is going to drive teams to get sponsors who will be hungry to front that money.
Yeah, we'll see.
Just don't know.
Anything can happen.
Next story, David. I think you're kind of excited about this one. I am too, a little bit.
Dude, I only play odd numbers, so yeah, it's about time.
Dynasty Warriors 9 has officially been detailed. I'm going to go ahead and bring up their official site and hope it doesn't just give me a black screen like the other ones have been.
This shit is coming back yet again.
Yeah.
Dynasty Warriors. You versus everyone.
Warriors.
The 1v1000 game series that's been going on since it was a fighting game back in the day. If you remember, the old school PlayStation Dynasty Warriors game was just a straight up fighter, like a 3D fighter.
That's why we're actually ahead in the numbers than Japan is, oddly enough. Like Dynasty Warriors 9 here, I think is Dynasty Warriors 8 in Japan. I'm not positive on that. Don't quote me on that.
That sounds wrong. Anyway, from the screenshots and a little bit that we've seen, the game looks really fucking good. Much better than the last ones. Yes. We'll see how it runs when you have 8,000 million people on screen. But we obviously don't have a whole lot of details on when exactly it's going to be coming out. But we do have an idea that it's got some cool new stuff that the old games didn't.
Namely, open world.
Yep. That's kind of a big, huge change.
Yes. For the first time in the series, the expansive land of China is shown on a single map with the introduction of an open world format. The 1-on-thousands exhilarating action of the Warriors series and beloved characters from the Romance of the Three Kingdoms tale are carried over, but the freedom through an open world stage provides a brand new Warriors experience. If you get deeper onto their official website, it sounds like the way they're doing it is, if you pick a character, the map is going to represent the time period of that character's life, and you can go around and do the big historical battle, what's going on at that time, but it's going to be very difficult. So you would actually have to run around and do all these quote-unquote side quests to weaken the overall fight of the historical battle. And then when you do that historical battle, the world will update and change to reflect the next era you're in. So we'll see how it works out. I know it's kind of nebulous to think about unless you see it. I would highly recommend.
It sounds like a Dynasty Warriors game with actual like strategy elements, which sounds really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I don't know if change is what I want in a Warriors game. They've kind of had the same formula for 9 iterations of it now, and I've enjoyed that. I like the simple, I'm going to press B, 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 and occasionally square every now and then, and just watch people fly.
What the fuck controller are you using?
Yeah, B's and squares. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. But I think you get what I'm trying to say.
No, B doesn't even attack on Xbox. Anyway, that game looks pretty dope, but we don't know shit about it. That's your story. Let's talk about Project Rap Rabbit.
Sounds good. Project Rap Rabbit is a new Kickstarter from the makers of Gitaru Man and Parappa the Rappa. And it's exactly what you would think it is. It is
amazing.
Yeah, it is a rhythm game with a rabbit and a frog sensei, it looks like. They are kickstarting this game, and they're asking for $1.1 million, and currently they are at 90,000 of that goal. That's not good. But, however, what is good is that this Kickstarter project, I think, went up earlier today as of this airing, so it's only been up for a few hours. The bad news
I don't think it's made the full round on the news outlets, so
possibly. We'll the bad news is I believe most Kickstarters make their money in the first like 24 hours of the game. So if they're not even at 10% yet, it's going to be a real rough time for this to get off the ground.
It's just a bad time for rhythm games, it seems. Not a lot of people are playing them anymore.
It is. It's the same conundrum that was behind Dishonored 2 and Mirror's Edge Catalyst and Beyond Good and Evil 2. These are all games people say they wanted, but in reality, no one wants them. No one wants to play them. It's nostalgic to think about them.
Well, no one wants to pay money for them. People would like to play them, but they want it to be a continuation of the game they played before.
Yeah.
I think they would do better
Same.
if this was just DLC or something.
I agree. Same problem happened with Rock Band 4. In fact, that kind of killed
And cats.
Mad Cats. Thank you. I was trying to think of the game, the guys who made that. It's fun to think about. You're like, oh yeah, I really want that, but we're not going to buy it. Sorry, guys. I know that it sounds fun, but I'd rather spend a couple bucks and get Parappa the Rapper remastered.
Yeah, that's fair.
If you are interested, however, you can always go to Kickstarter and throw a few bucks its way. I just don't think it's going to be completed.
Check out that Project Rap Rabbit. Well, let's talk about Kickstarters that done well.
Yeah.
Kickstarters that I'm specifically very excited for because
Oh,
I've
hell
actually
yeah.
played it, and I'm so excited for this fucking game. Obviously, I'm talking about BattleTech,
Yep, obviously.
which is a return to form because I think they mentioned it's like the first actual legitimate BattleTech game in like 19 years. Like
It is
like
a
tactical BattleTech game.
turn-based strategy game, which is amazing. Kickstarted very well. It's been in development for years, and the news today is Paradox is agreeing to publish it. Now, David, you're very familiar with Paradox as a publisher.
Yeah,
What
Paradox
have they
does
done?
some cool shit.
What have they put out?
I knew it right before you asked me that question.
Crusader Kings, right?
Oh yeah. So they did Europa Universalis, Crusader Kings. They've done Stellaris most recently, and they're a cool company. They're from Sweden. I think they also did work on City Skylines.
I don't know about that. I'll have to take a look at it, but
Maybe some of the DLC.
the information that we get today is that there is a partnership between Hellbrain Schemes and Paradox Interactive to publish BattleTech on the PC. Paradox will provide marketing support, localization services, and funds for additional testing in exchange for a cut of the game's sales. This will allow Harebrained Schemes to focus their efforts on making a great game while maintaining complete creative control. That's something that should be stressed. This is just a publishing deal. Paradox has no say-so in what the game itself is going to consist of. They might say, hey, this could be a good idea to add, or you might want to change this, but ultimately it's Harebrained Schemes that have the final word on what goes in there. Additionally, this is not them selling the IP to Paradox or anything like that. This is just a publishing deal. What that means is kind of what I said. Paradox gets a cut of the profit. In turn, they take care of the marketing, they take care of the branding issues, and it frees the development team up to work on the game and polish that up. Because as it was before, now
they'll help with localization. They'll help provide additional testing. They'll do a lot of cool stuff that should help out.
As it is right now, Harebrained Schemes, which is a small team of people, was responsible for all that. They kind of hired extra help. They hired extra help, and the payment is going to be in form of a cut of the game's profits. Cool, awesome. I like what Paradox does. Good to see Harebrained Schemes be able to free up some of their resources to focus on polishing the game.
I can't wait for that damn game.
It looks amazing. Let's go ahead and move on to the final news story of the night, and discuss.
Goddamn you, ZeniMax.
Discuss the fact that. Weird. I didn't make a ticker for it. Anyways, ZeniMax is suing Samsung.
Because why not?
Because
Who
why
haven't
not?
they sued recently?
This is via Upload VR, so let me go ahead and bring that up right here. ZeniMax files complaint against Samsung for powering Gear VR with Oculus. Now, if you remember a few weeks to a couple months back, ZeniMax sued Oculus and won. They got a $5 million verdict against Oculus. Split up between
some of that Facebook money.
Yeah, split up between Lucky Palmer and some of the developers at Oculus, etc., saying that they stole trade secrets and NDAs were broken and just a whole mess of other things. Now, Oculus has officially filed a new complaint with a demand for a jury trial against Samsung. This was filed last Friday and is based off the verdict from the Oculus trial, alleging that since Samsung's Gear VR is powered by Oculus, it is, quote, based upon ZeniMax's intellectual property and includes information obtained by Samsung from Oculus, Lucky Palmer, and John Carmack in violation of the NDA, ZeniMax's copyrights, and Carmack's deployment agreement. ZeniMax is alleging that due to the public nature of the allegations, trial, and verdict, that Samsung knows full well the Gear VR is at least partially based on ZeniMax's VR technology. Now, the bitch about this one is, I don't know if ZeniMax is actually in the right or not on this. I do know, though, that historically ZeniMax is they're a fucking copyright troll. Let's just call it what it is at this point.
They're the Harmony Gold of video games. We've discussed this. We've been mad at them a bunch of times, actually, because they keep just suing people for, obviously, money. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're just trying to get more money instead of just making games. But just because they're fucking dicks.
Yeah.
Like any suit they can find that they think they have grounds in, since they do have a huge fucking budget and some crazy ass lawyers behind them, because these are the guys that own Bethesda, and Bethesda makes some shit that makes a lot of money.
Well, ZeniMax is a big. They own more than just Bethesda. They're a pretty big conglomerate.
Yeah, but I'm putting it in terms of people will get people watching the show know who Bethesda is. Probably. It's possible.
But yeah, they're going over Samsung now because apparently they're using tech from Facebook or Oculus, and ZeniMax like, well, Oculus is our tech. That means that's our tech too. Blah, 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 blah. Eventually, ZeniMax is going to bite a dog that is going to bite back. And I think Samsung may be that dog. They are big enough to land on ZeniMax with both feet if they really wanted to fight this. And I think they're going to. We'll see how it shakes out.
Well, Samsung's no stranger to crazy-ass litigation, because Samsung threw down with someone else recently, like Apple.
Yeah.
Or some shit. So they've got the money. They won't be scared.
Yeah, we'll see how this shakes out. This could be ZeniMax sensing some blood in the water over Samsung's exploding phones as well. The timing of this lawsuit with all their problems of manufacturing, not only in America where airlines banned the Samsung Galaxy 7 from flying, but China has just really locked down on Samsung hard over some things that have been going on. I get the feeling ZeniMax just senses blood in the water and they're trying to get a cheap buck on them because, like we mentioned, ZeniMax are fucking copyright trolls. They just are at this point. We'll see how this shakes out over the next few months. Trials do take a long time to go through, as the Facebook Oculus, the Oculus versus ZeniMax one did. For information, look at Upload VR. They tend to be a pretty good VR site as far as that stuff goes. Anyways, I think that does it with the news. Let's go ahead and go on to things that we can play today instead of pondering what's going to be coming out over the next few months.
Cool. Well, there's actually a whole bunch of shit, but none of it's a really super big deal, although it could be depending on who you are. So I'm going to try and run through this because there's a lot. We have Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia, whatever. Valentia, the 3DS. So this is actually a remake of Fire Emblem Gaiden, I believe was the original title for like NES or Super Nintendo when it
Very
came
old.
out in Japan back in the day. It was actually the second Fire Emblem game, and it's finally coming back. So this game actually had some interesting mechanics that the other Fire Emblems don't. So this is going to incorporate some of that, plus a bunch of the new stuff from the newer games. They started working on this right after they came out with Fire Emblem Fates. So if you need more Fire Emblem in your life, there you go. Coming out tomorrow, I believe.
I could always use more Fire Emblem. I actually like that franchise quite a bit. I'm glad to see them making more Fire Emblem games. Odd that it's on the 3DS and not the Switch, though.
That's just how they're doing it. And they just made that new 2DS. Why wouldn't they?
True.
Also, while you're at it, if you're looking for more 3DS games, you can get Cooking Mama Sweet Shop, which is a kind of funny game where it's a mini-game-based cooking simulator, I guess. You make a bunch of different recipes. There's 160 some odd mini-games that you use the stylus, the microphone, think like the WarriorWare style games, a bunch of crazy stuff you do. While you're making all of these fun confections, you're putting them in your shop and you're trying to sell them. So your shop gets bigger, you get more recipes, you make more stuff, you sell more stuff, you make a bigger shop, and so on. Kind of a addictive little mini game based nonsense for those into that kind of thing, especially if you like cutesy cooking games. We have The Surge that hit for PC, PS4, and Xbox One. It's actually a science fiction action adventure game made by Deck 13 Interactive, published by Focus Home Interactive. and they actually describe this game as a Souls-style, super challenging third-person sci-fi game.
I saw this played a little bit on Twitch last night. It looks interesting. I'm afraid it's going to be really repetitive. This is just me looking at it for like an hour or so, but I didn't really see the level design, for example, that Souls games are known for. I didn't see any bosses
people
really.
will often refer to games as Souls-style when they mean it to say it's really fucking hard, and that there's pattern recognition that you need to employ in the game. I do kind of agree with you that this doesn't look necessarily Souls-style. I think it's more, it's a tougher game, and that's what they're going for.
It does have its equivalent to bonfires, though. It does have the respawning enemies if you die. There's a lot of elements there, but I feel it's a disservice to compare the Surge to Dark Souls or Bloodborne.
Yeah, you have an exoskeleton. You use it to battle your enemies. You've got different modular upgrades so your suit can get cooler. You can target different body parts of enemies, and you have cool finishing moves. So you actually end up like dismembering things in bullet time, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, there are some Monster Hunter-esque qualities to this game, by the way. You can fight.
I'm actually really interested in it because I was watching some trailers and I watched a little gameplay as well, and I think it looks pretty fun. So I'm gonna keep an eye on it and kind of see how everyone's doing with it, see if people still like it in a week or if it gets really old really fast.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I'm afraid it's going to get very tedious, which is why I'm holding off on buying it right away. But I'm interested in it.
Cool. Also coming out for PSVR, actually, this game is Farpoint and the PSVR aim controller, which is basically a super scope with a PlayStation Move on the end, is what I'm going to call it. But it's an actual VR space adventure game on a hostile alien planet. You have you crash into an unknown alien world. You're separated from your colleagues. You have to find holographic logs to reunite with scientists to escape the planet. You got to find a bunch of secrets, shoot a shit ton of indigenous alien life, and keep moving to survive. Now, the surprise to me with this game is the fact that it actually does have two-player co-op. Obviously, you're going to need 2 copies of the game, 2 VRs, and PlayStation Plus accounts. But VR game, story-based, shooty-based, co-op. Sounds cool.
I would say this is the first quote-unquote AAA title 100% created for VR. I know people will go, what about Resident Evil 7? Well, Resident Evil 7 could be played without the VR headset, and in fact, might be beneficial.
Which is going to be our caveat for actual VR games. If you can play it without the headset, not a true VR game.
Yeah, VR is a feature.
Like ground up for VR only.
That said, Farpoint, man, I feel like this was sent off to die. I didn't even know this was coming out, and I own a PSVR until a couple days ago. There was no marketing that I saw for it.
It's a co-op VR game that's only on PSVR, and I mean, I know you have a VR. How many friends do you have that also have a VR?
Yeah, not a one.
It's gonna be really tough to find people to play with.
I'm really, really worried that Sony is pulling out of the PlayStation VR, and this is going to kind of become Vita 2.
God, no.
We'll see how E3 shakes out in about a month. If they don't really
I
mention
hope it's
VR
just
at
fucking
all.
crazy and filled with all kinds of awesome AAA VR nonsense. I want Gran Turismo Sport, full VR support for the PlayStation, running at 60 FPS. Come on, digital.
I'm really worried that we're on the downslope of this, and I think Sony is going to not abandon PSVR, but it's not going to be a big driving force for them like it felt like it was going to be.
Well, while you're staring at that, you can also play Injustice 2, which is coming out this week for PS4 and Xbox One. It's the follow-up to 2013's Injustice Gods Among Us, which is NetherRealm Studios, the guys that make Mortal Kombat. They made Mortal Kombat 10, and then all of a sudden we got a cool DC violent fighting game. For me, the most important part of Injustice 2 coming out, that means there's more Injustice comics, and these comics are fucking amazing. If you haven't,
I will absolutely agree with you on that.
Go grab that first graphic novel of the Injustice game. It is so damn good. Minor spoilers, but Superman punches through the Joker.
Yes, through the Joker, not like around him.
So fucking good. Oh my god. Yeah, this game looks super fun. I've watched a lot of the different finishers the character has. I'm sure it's got a completely off-the-wall, ridiculous story. I'm really enjoying it in Injustice 1, even though it made an amount of sense. It was still really cool. It does have a very Mortal Kombat style fighting engine in there, and I actually love that. So I'm actually fully planning on playing this game.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
just
not a
looked up.
fighting game guy, but I like watching specifically the Injustice games getting played. So looking forward to this one. What else we have coming up? It's kind of a big week.
Which is random considering it's May, the middle of May, but we got stuff coming
Yeah,
out.
none of it's
Also,
huge.
Switch
That's
games.
just it. It's just a bunch of stuff.
Switch games. That's amazing. Another Switch games that came out on PS4 like a year ago. So Thumper
For
is
VR,
coming
I
out.
bet.
Yeah, that's funny. Thumper is coming out. It was released in October for PS4 Windows. It actually had Oculus and PSVR support, but it is a rhythm action game mixed with survival horror.
I reviewed this for PlayStation 4 when it came out for GameCritics.com. Thumper is fun. You're riding down a rail.
You're a space beetle.
Yeah, you're a space beetle that escaped from Rajadoin's terrarium. You're riding down a rail. You have to make sure you hit the turns if it jumps right. It's your typical rhythm game, think like Amplitude or something like that. But it does have a very dark and brooding soundtrack to the point to where in VR, after playing it for about 45 minutes, I had to take intermittent breaks because it just brings you down. It's fun, but the soundtrack is heavy and dark, and the visuals are very gloomy, and it
And now you can
just
play it on
makes
Go.
you... Yeah, I don't want to say it makes you sad, but it definitely brings you down. I had to kind of take more breaks than I would playing a video game.
Throw a rhythm game on your Switch. Take it with you so you can get that lo-fi audio going. Woo!
What else we got?
Still a hint. Mages of Australia. That's coming out. This game actually looks really fucking cool. It was on Kickstarter, I believe, and you actually make custom spells. It's, not really Magicka styles. Think more Legend of Zelda meets Harry Potter. If that makes sense. It's a single-player action adventure in a fantasy world where you can design your own spells. Now, the story is actually being written by Ed Greenwood, who's the guy that made Forgotten Realms. He worked on Dungeons & Dragons, Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights, a shit ton of fantasy books. So the writing should be really good, and it looks pretty fun. Like I said, you make a bunch of spells. You're a little mage guy. It's a fantasy RPG, but it's all about mages. It's really trying to explore the entire mage archetype. So if you are a mage fan, I would pick it up. If you're more into swords and shields, probably not your thing. We also have, and that's coming out for PC, PS4, and Xbox One. So every damn thing besides the Switch, like most things. Reservoir Dogs Bloody Days hits PC this week. It's a top-down strategy shooter set in the Reservoir Dogs universe.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah, and there's 18 heists. There's lots of blood. It's got single player. It's got co-op. You actually jump back and forth between different characters, and there's like a time rewind Prince of Persia style mechanic to it, which is interesting for a strategy shooter game. Anyway, that's PC only. Coming out this week.
Do you know who's making that, by the way? That seems like such a random IP to pick.
Yeah, I don't actually remember. I looked it up earlier.
All right, don't worry about it.
Also hitting this week for PS4 and Xbox One, Shadow Warrior 2, which came out a while ago, and it was on PC. It's got a super cool soundtrack. It's a first-person melee/shooter against a bunch of crazy aliens. Shadow Warrior 2, I think, is really fucking cool. I'm not going to lie. And if you are looking for another first-person shooter-style game for your PS4 or Xbox One, I would actually say you should take a look at it.
Yet another game I reviewed for GameCritics.com was Shadow Warrior 2 on the PC when it first came out. It does open to Stan Bush's I Got the Touch. If you like games like Serious Sam and those really just silly-ass first-person shooters, this would be kind of up your alley. The sword combat is immensely enjoyable. However, the game does run long in the tooth with its dick and fart jokes. I mean, I love a good dick and fart joke every now and then, but god damn is Shadow Warrior 2 just packed full of them. The main character is fucking called Lo Wang, for God's sake. And that joke does wear thin after a while. It does have some randomized events to it in procedural generation, which I'm also kind of tired of seeing in games, personally. I want to see the handcrafted shit come back. I feel that procedural generation's lazy in most developments. or most games. But it was fun if you can get it for relatively cheap.
And Steven is completely wrong. Procedurally generated is the future. Dick and fart jokes are the greatest thing that any game has ever offered humanity. So let's talk about something else that I'm excited for. And that's the fact that although this game has been in early access for quite an amount of time, Endless Space 2 is finally coming out of early access this week. I think it's Friday. So that game is getting a full release. This is a sci-fi 4X turn-based strategy game developed by Amplitude Studios. It's the sequel to Endless Space, which came out in 2012. One of my favorite 4X games of all time. These are the same guys that made Endless Legends, Endless at the Endless, all kinds of fun stuff. It's got a super awesome soundtrack. It involves a bunch of alien races trying to colonize the solar system. Some of them are trying to
for life,
crap out of each other. Some of them are trying to make good friends with each other. Others are just trying to make a fuck-off ton of money. If you are a fan of Civilization and games like that, you might enjoy Endless Space. Now, keep in mind the barrier to entry is a little bit higher than your standard Civilization game. There is a lot to fucking look at.
It's got a learning curve like a brick wall.
It for sure does. The first Endless Space game, when you first pick it up, is a bitch to play.
Yeah, the
tutorial is all text-based. There's way too much stuff to see, and you won't really know what the hell you're doing until you watch someone better than you play it on YouTube.
I would say, go ahead and finish.
That caveat, it's totally worth it. I
is.
love the franchise.
It is definitely more complex than, say, Civilization, but it is not as complex as Crusader Kings or Stellaris.
Yeah.
DJ Cyanide, you say procedurally generated dick and fart. Oh, I thought you were about to say procedural. I can't fucking speak. I thought you were about to say procedurally generated can suck my dick. Which I was about to agree with you on. That's why I mentioned that. However, procedurally generated dick and fart jokes, I'm kind of convinced are in Shadowrun 2. I wouldn't be not Shadowrun 2, Shadow Warrior 2. Because it does feel like sometimes they reach into a hat and just pull out a series of phrases and just string it together, and as long as it's crude, it's allowed.
That's my entire vocabulary.
We have one more game coming out this week. I have no idea what it is, David.
No Guns for PC. Now, this didn't necessarily need to be last, but I put it last anyway because it is self-described as a nihilistic action platformer roguelike.
Aren't they
Which made me think that someone in your household might want to play it. So it's super obscure. It describes itself as an entire game riddle. So it's got crazy shootouts with management.
I'm already annoyed with the pretentiousness
idle
of that
game style management. But it's got a very beautiful black and white aesthetic with a good amount of red thrown in for all that cartoony death. It's very dark in tone. It's written as a riddle, like they mentioned, so you kind of learn a lot more about the game while you're playing it.
Yeah, that bothers
me. For me, looking at it, it heavily reminded me of They Bleed Pixels, if you ever played that game, which I did, and I found it to be super fun. Of course, I am a guy that likes platformers, so I am interested in this because I like jumping around and murdering things.
All right. I think that wraps it up for new releases. Let's go ahead and move on to our topic of the week. This is, of course, the part of the show where we always encourage people to jump in with their ideas and thoughts on what the topic happens to be. This week, it is your topic, David, and you want to talk about, in honor of the Zelda going to mobile rumors, you want to figure out, that is not what I wanted either. Son of a bitch, that's what happened to it.
I got this. Steven, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So with the rumors of Zelda being on mobile and the fact that we have Fire Emblem, Mario, a shit ton of Sega-based Sonic games, and all kinds of other fun stuff, which franchises would you like to see make the jump to mobile, and what style of game would they be?
So this is your topic, David, so why don't you go ahead and lead us off on this one?
All right, so my first one is a game that I think needs to come back, and it's almost perfect to come to mobile as is. The only question is if I'd want it to be the garbage version 3D ones as a throwback, or obviously the much superior side-scrolling 2D shooter. But I'm talking Contra, man.
How would that work as mobile?
I think Contra has a place in our hearts, and it can be on my phone. So you already have a bunch of emulators and stuff on your phone. You can play old school games, and I think if they rebuilt a Contra in a newer form where you could actually move, shoot, jump, run, gun, all that good stuff, build it with co-op built into the engine, so you can be sitting in a movie theater with a buddy, running around, jumping, shooting. It'd be fun.
Okay.
I mean, you could play it with touchscreens controls pretty easily. You could even make it simple and have your character automatically shoot if you're really fucking lazy. And then, of course, if you pick up any weapons, you're going to burn through all the ammo on it really soon. But that's fine. That's cool. Don't worry about it. Just keep running and shooting. Get your Contra on. I think this is a genius idea. Someone give me money for it.
What I want to see on mobile, one of the games I'd like to see, it's a franchise that had a spin-off on consoles, and you wouldn't think that would work, but it was actually very fun. You could do it co-op. There was kind of a mini flood of these games on the PlayStation 2 for about a year or so. It kind of came and went as fast as Swing Music did, and that is, I want to see a Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance on mobile.
Oh shit, Dark Alliance, I forgot about those games. Those are my jam.
Dark Alliance 2, Fallout Brothers Steel, Champions of Norath. All that kind of came out roughly.
Arms. Thank you very much.
Yeah. All that kind of came out roughly
all my
within
abilities when I transferred my character from Champions. Damn it.
A few months of each other, and then went away. I feel that style of game could be distilled down to a very simplistic control scheme, and I think it would really work well on your longer, bigger phones. You might even have to go as far as like an iPad only, but I do feel that style of top-down isometric action RPG would work very, very well on a mobile phone.
4-player co-op. Everyone can bring up the menu at different times. Touch-based controls. Press somewhere to go somewhere. Hold it down to actually free run. Attacking would probably be automatic, so you don't have to click like a crazy person. Click on an enemy, you'll start swinging on the enemy. Click the next enemy, you'll swing on that enemy at whatever your character's max DPS swing is. You have all your abilities listed somewhere on the screen, so you can use your magic spells. You can do whatever you want. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. That'd be pretty fun. I'll play that.
I have one more after you, David, and I think that I'm not a mobile guy, so this was a very difficult topic for me, but I do have one.
That's
more.
Fine. I got two more, so I'm going to go next.
All right.
Mine is a game that I actually don't necessarily need it to be on mobile. I just wanted to put it on this list because I don't have it on any other list, and I want another fucking one of these games, and that's Ikaruga, because Ikaruga is goddamn amazing.
I want to say that is on mobile now.
Oh my god, I'm going to hang up on you and just go play Ikaruga on mobile.
Go take a look. I think that is on mobile now. Take a look at that. While you're doing that, I'll go ahead and mention my
ideally,
next
I want a new Ikaruga, because I have played the shit out of the original on Dreamcast. So, I mean, that's a thing.
Before I mention my next one, DJ Zynide in chat is saying, did you hear about Phantom Dust? I did hear about Phantom Dust. Apparently, it is going to be free on Xbox tomorrow. Microsoft is just like, here's Phantom Dust for free. So cool.
Damn.
Double check me on that. I did not read too much of the story. It was a headline I saw right before I went live.
Game, right?
It was an old classic, like original old school Xbox. They were going to be doing a sequel / reboot to it. They announced at E3, not last year, but the year before, I believe. But this was before the Night of the Long Knives, when Microsoft kind of nuked all their first-party franchises they have coming out. It is apparently also going to be on Windows 10 with microtransactions built in. That's why they're giving it away for free. There you go.
HD remaster coming at you. Also coming after your wallet.
Back on topic at hand, my final game that I like to see on mobile, and I think this is more of a limitation of the hardware than it is a limitation of the device itself. Like, it would work well on a touchscreen. It would work well on an iPad. But the processing power isn't on there because you do have to have a little bit more oomph for these kind of games. And I want to see Command & Conquer or any kind of real-time strategy on an iPad, big Samsung for Android. That touchscreen ability to just drag and circle units and send them off. Any kind of big real-time strategy. I know that's going to be difficult to do on a phone because it's the processing power, because you have to have so many units you keep track of. But I would say on the scale of maybe Halo Wars would work well on a mobile device.
Man, I think I'm really mad.
Why are you really mad?
So
interactive meter, David. This is a
no. We were both right in the fact that yes, I still want Ikaruga on mobile, and yes, Ikaruga is on mobile, but it isn't in the fucking United States.
Why?
I'm so mad about that. You told me about something and I got so excited, and then immediately all my hopes were dashed.
That's
Fucking
such
love
bullshit.
that game.
I hate
I can't
region
play it.
lockout. God, I hate that shit. David, tell me your last game so we can wrap up here.
All right, my last game will never exist, but it's actually something I thought about a while ago, back before we decided that this company was absolute trash, and the only person that could actually bring this to fruition no longer owns the rights to it.
Are you talking about Castlevania on a mobile?
No, way more important of a game.
Okay.
I'm talking about Metal Gear Solid on a mobile.
No way. No, I do not want to see that on mobile at all. I don't think it can work.
Well, that's why it's a perfect fantasy game, because it'll never exist.
How would this look on mobile?
It's fantastic. It could actually be a turn-based strategy style sneaky game, a la the Go series.
So you're saying, okay, you don't like the Go, because I think they tried this with Metal Gear Acid on the PSP.
Yeah, I don't want a card-based nonsense game. I would want something more strategic, where you're moving around. You do occasionally have to kill enemies. There are boss fights that have some kind of random boss mechanic based on who you're fighting. But for me, the important part would be having Kojima still writing it, and obviously me being able to play it on my phone.
So you would play a level, and then you would listen to like a 20-minute spoken cutscene that makes absolutely no sense, and then you would play another level that lasts 2 minutes, etc.
Now, you say that like it's a bad thing, but I would play the shit out of that.
See, here's the thing. I love the Metal Gear franchise, but fucking Kojima needs an editor. Because much like this show, he'll say something, then he'll say it again slightly different, and then he'll repeat it again one more time just to drive it home, because he really has no idea where he's going or what he's doing as far as that stuff goes. Once again, just like this show. DJ Cyanide, you're asking a question about Metal Gear Acid. Man, it is really hard to fucking describe, because it's been so long since I played it and I forgot most about it. It was on PSP, I believe. There were 2 of them. I want to say it took place between Metal Gear Solid 2 and 4, but I just don't recall. They were really weird.
Turn-based. It had weird card mechanics. It had some things I really liked. It had some things I didn't, but I think that's mostly just limitations of the PSP. So if we take that concept, that formula of Metal Gear as a smaller mobile game back in the day, and redid it new school on a phone, I think it would join it. I mean, fuck, even if you just give me Metal Gear Acid 3, but obviously that's not going to happen because Kojima won't write it.
Yeah, I'm actually down for Metal Gear Solid Go. Once you said like the Hitman Go or the Deus Ex Go games,
that's more the style
that clicked
I was
it
thinking.
In my head perfectly.
Yeah,
so I can see that.
Less collectible card game, more just tactical strategy game.
Yeah, you can like Fulton people back to your base and extract better skills from them or something. Yeah, I can see that working out.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Anyways, let us know what games you would like to see on mobile and what variations that would take down in the chat below if you're here at twitch.tv/GamePoints or if comment section on YouTube. Beyond that, I think that kind of wraps things up, unless you have anything extra you want to add there, David?
Not a lot.
All right, then.
I gotta go play video games.
This has been GamePoints episode 89. Thank you for joining us. If you're watching us live here at twitch.tv/GamePoints, we do stream every Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It is an audience interactive podcast. As you heard today, we did get an interactive bunch of people watching us. That's always fun. Feel free to give us a follow down there if you liked what you saw. If you're watching us on YouTube, like, comment, dislike, subscribe, and all that good stuff down below as well. We'll try to get to it when we can. If you want to follow the show on Twitter, you can do so at GamePoints PC. You can follow us individually. I am your host, Steven Brown, at CapitalistPig21. That there is David Smith at Palshife_Satori. And that is it. This has been GamePoints episode 89. And until next week, we are out of here.
Don't pre-order.